What's up? Welcome to month 2 of house parties. I'm not gonna lie to you, the month of August was incredible. I mean, you guys were awesome. You showed up. We talked, we learned, we grew, we ate cookies, we ate chips. You drank a lot of soda, but it was a good time to be had by all. In fact, it was so awesome that we have to open up 2 more houses coming up in the next few months. Like, we need to double our space because it's just so great and there's so many of you goobers. I hope you guys get that. Like, you showed up so well and you're killing it at house parties so well that we have to do 2 more of them. Like, that means there's gonna be 2 more places where students will hang out in small groups, 2 more places where they can have a conversation with their small group leader, 2 more places where kids are running around eating cookies and chips and throwing a football and hopefully not breaking a window. 2 more places where hopefully students' lives are changed for Jesus through conversations. And that's happening because you guys are showing up and you guys are killing it at house parties. Like, you did that, and that's incredible, and we are so pumped about it. So I just want to encourage you, just keep going. I mean, you guys, we talked about taking ownership of where God has us, saying this is my campus, seeing people, feeling for people, serving people, helping lead people into a relationship with Jesus. Let's just keep going. Let's make September even better than August, and August was pretty amazing. And what's cool is we're actually going to be doing this series together as a church on Sunday mornings as well. So you guys should be here at house parties on Wednesday night. We're going to hang out. We're going to talk about going forward, but we're also going to talk about on Sunday morning our whole church. I think you guys should definitely be there for that too. That's 9:15 or 11. Grab your parents, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, your sister's brother's cousin, which is also your cousin, and just be there on a Sunday morning. 9:15 or 11. It's going to be great. Going forward means we are growing. Things might be changing. We're trying to reach new areas and accomplish new goals. We, in the past year or so, have come up with a new mission and vision that we are going after as we go forward. And that's what we're going to try to do at Chaos, and that's what we're going to try to do as a whole at Christ Church Camden. Growth always means moving from where we are to where God wants us to be. And we as a church are growing, and we are moving forward together. And we are going forward to accomplish the mission that God has given us, right? We're talking about flipping the spiritual climate of Camden County. For us, it's flipping the spiritual climate of Camden County schools. We're talking about leading disconnected and unfulfilled people to find a full life in Jesus. And we can't do that being in neutral. We can't do that by going backwards to what we used to do. We have to do it by moving forward. And like we talked about last month, we are here for a reason. God has placed Christ Church Camden in Camden County in the year 2022. He has put Chaos here in Camden County in the year 2022 for a reason. We were made for this moment, and this moment was made for us. And we will not accomplish that mission that God has planned for us if we don't move forward. But moving forward requires action from us, right? We have to do something. You can't sit still and expect to move forward. You have to take a step. And that's what we talked about last week. We talked about how every one of us at Chaos needs to take a next step. We talk about next steps all the time here at Christ Church, that in order to move forward, we have to do something. So we kind of have asked the question of, man, what is your next step? What's your next step? Whatever grade you're in, whatever it may be, what does it look like for you to take a step forward? Because if we stay where we are, we stay who we are. And honestly, God has so much more for us than where we are right now. So this month, we are going to spend our couple of weeks looking at the story of Joshua and how Joshua led the Israelites from one place forward to a new one that God had promised them. The story kind of goes like this, that Israel is in Egypt, and they're actually slaves there, and they're struggling. And God grabs a guy named Moses and has Moses lead Israel out of Egypt toward into a promised land, a land that he had dedicated for Israel to live someday soon. And Moses leads them all the way through this long journey as they wander through the desert, and eventually they are right on the other side of a river from the promised land. And actually what happens is Moses passes away, and the leadership is passed to a guy named Joshua, and he is the one who leads the Israelites into the promised land. He leads them forward into this new land, this new place, this new territory that God has for them. Now, by no means are we saying that Chaos and Christ Church Camden are now entering the promised land, but we think that we can learn a ton as we look at Joshua and how God used him and how God led Israel forward. And this is a crazy story. A ton happens in the book of Joshua in the Old Testament. There are some terrifying moments. There are some unknown moments where they just don't know what's going to happen. There are some moments where God does some incredible things. In the very beginning of the book of Joshua, Joshua chapter 1, God is giving authority and leadership over to Joshua after Moses has passed away. And God is instructing Joshua on how he's going to lead these people into this land and how he's going to take over, and instructions on how he should do so. So God is instructing Joshua how to get the people ready to enter this promised land. This land that they know honestly nothing about. This land that, as far as they can tell, is incredible, is beautiful, has everything they need to live the life that God has for them. But this land that's also kind of terrifying and is full of enemies and other cities and other towns and other people that they're going to have to deal with. And just full of unknowns. They're a little bit worried about what's going to happen, naturally. So in Joshua chapter 1, God tells Joshua over and over again to be strong and to be courageous. And the reason God keeps telling Joshua over and over again to be strong and to be courageous is because Joshua isn't being strong and isn't being courageous. My man is scared. Honestly, all of Israel's probably scared. They're nervous. Everything is unknown. They're worried about what's going to happen. Is God going to take care of them? Is this actually going to be the land? Is it actually going to work out, I guess you could say. And here's what we want to talk about this week, that we cannot let fear stop us from moving forward. We cannot let fear keep us from moving into what God has for us. We have to go with courage. As the Israelites are literally standing on the bank of a river, the river separating them from the wilderness and the promised land, God promises them three things. That this is the land He is giving to them, that no one can stop them from taking it, and that He is going to go with them all the way through it. But even so, God needed to encourage Joshua and the people of Israel by telling them this. So this is where we get the famous verse, Joshua 1:9, that says this: "Haven't I commanded you," that's God talking to Joshua, "be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Again, 3 different times God looks at Joshua, or tells Joshua, it's not actually physically like staring at him in the face, but He tells him, be strong and be courageous, because my man is struggling. He is nervous. He is worried. He's wondering, man, do I actually know what I'm doing? Can I actually handle this? Can I actually do this? I am way out of my league. A lot of times in our life, we lack the courage and we lack the confidence to step forward into something that God has for us. We lack the courage to trust that God's going to get us there. How many of us at some point in our life haven't done something cool, something awesome, because we were scared of it? When I was a kid, I loved roller coasters. I still do. I love roller coasters. It's harder for me to fit in them because I'm 6'7". But I loved roller coasters as a kid. And what's funny is when I was really young, I didn't know I loved them yet. I was actually really, really terrified of them. And every time we would go to like Disney or Universal, my mom would bring me with her and my siblings, and she would like force me to get in the line for these like tiny kid roller coasters. And I would be terrified. Like, I would legit be in line for these rides at Disneyland, just crying, screaming and crying. And my mom would just be like patting me on the back, like rolling her eyes, like, he'll be fine. People in line next to us would literally lean over to my mom and be like, hey, maybe you should like get that kid out of line. He seems terrified. And my mom would literally say to him, he's fine, he'll be fine. And there I am, just crying, all the way till we get in the cart for the roller coaster. My mom sits down with me. She is right next to me. I'm still crying. We're like strapping in. We're putting on the seatbelt. We're pulling the bar down. I'm still crying. And then the ride starts. And I just scream the whole time. Crazy ride, crazy roller coaster. And as soon as the ride ends, we hop off. And as my mom knew, the first thing I do is like both hands up. I'm like, that was the greatest thing that ever happened in my entire life. And I would always ask my mom, I'd be like, can we please go again? And my mom would just like laugh at me and make fun of me because she knew that I was gonna love it. But she didn't want to let my fear keep me from doing something awesome. So she went with me and pushed me forward a little bit. Fear and discouragement can paralyze us. It can keep us from moving forward into what God has for us. Fear and discouragement will keep us in park instead of putting it in drive. And there's a really simple answer as to why we can have the courage to move forward, and that's that God says, I'm with you. Just like He said to Joshua. But here's the thing, God says it to Joshua in the Old Testament, but Jesus actually tells us again in the New Testament that He's going to go with us and He will be with us. At the end of the Gospel of Matthew, you have Jesus talking to all His followers and all His disciples. And this is what we call the Great Commission, where He's telling them, He's giving them the mission to go out and tell more people about Him, to make disciples. And at the end of that sentence, Matthew 28, verse 20, Jesus says, and remember, I am with you always to the end of the... So God promises Joshua, hey man, as you go forward, I'm going with you. And Jesus promises us the same thing. He's saying, listen, as you move forward to accomplish the mission, I will be with you always, everywhere, to the very end. And yeah, it might be scary. It might be intimidating. It might cause a little bit of worry as we move forward. but the God of the universe is moving forward with us. The God who made you, the God who loves you, the God who saves you, the God who spoke the world into existence, the God who conquered sin and death, that God lives in us and is moving forward with us. And God can do what we can't do, which is why we should be very thankful he's going with us, and we can have the courage to move. So as we as a church move forward, as chaos moves forward, we can move forward with courage because God is moving forward with us. And we talked last week about moving forward by taking next steps. And next steps can be scary. There's unknown there. There's change there. It can cause us to not be very confident in what we have for us, but God is moving forward with it. But whatever your next step may be, whether it's talking to a small group leader tonight about what it means to actually know and follow Jesus, whether it's obeying Jesus in baptism, whether it's having that conversation with your small group leader that you know you've needed to have and you just haven't had the courage to have yet, whether it's showing up on a Sunday morning or inviting your parents or your friends to join you on a Sunday morning, or stepping into serving on a Sunday morning, or maybe it's just being part of our student leadership team, all of those steps require some amount of courage. And we might not think we're good enough to do it, we're smart enough to accomplish it, we can handle it, but guess what? The God of the universe is stepping forward with you. So have a great week.